Let us start today's session. I'll give you a brief recap. This is the 10th session in that pursuit. For the first 9 sessions, we have spent around 2 to 3 sessions on learning how to become a seeker who is non-cynical and who is true to the idea of real search. How to become a seeker who knows how to question is extremely important in Vedantic philosophy, because this philosophy is based on how you inquire. If you don't know how to inquire, or if we do not cultivate our methods of inquiry, or we do not improve our methods of inquiry, it is difficult to progress in this path. So, how do you become a good seeker who is prepared to ask the right questions? And we learned how to become a good seeker. Then there are 4 important points of knowledge that we needed. One, we wanted to understand the self, the jiva that we are. How are we described? How does the Vedantic philosophy describe us in detail? Anatomy of the self had to be learned. Like we have an anatomy of the biological self. Similarly, what does the philosophy has to say about the idea of self? That's your jiva. Then anatomy of jagat. What are the rules? What is the premise around which this whole world revolves? That was up for discussion. Then our pursuit, Brahma. Why do we need to pursue pure consciousness? And what are the attributes of pure consciousness? That is what we discussed. Then we discussed Maya. Maya is the component where the self and the world has to move towards the Brahman. What is stopping us? What is it that we need to go through to reach the state of pure consciousness? So the block of Maya, how it is related to Brahman, how is it related to the world, and what is its role in the whole philosophy? So that was the 4th thing that we discussed. So Jiv, Jagat, Brahma, and Maya. So these are the 4 things that we discussed. Then we came into the building blocks of philosophy has been discussed. Now comes the role of the seeker again. How do you inquire? Or what are the methods, or what are the logical ways to question? That is, so methods of inquiry is 3 very prominent methods of inquiry. One was neti, whom we are not, that we need to question, contemplate, and meditate upon who we are, that the seer and seen. That was established. Another very deep method of inquiry is the witness, being a witness to everything. Being a witness is the closest to what we can be to Brahman intellectually, and how we realize that we are the witness, and what is the great idea of being the witness. So 3 different methods of inquiry we discussed. Now, today we will discuss further different methods of inquiry. Now, why are we dealing with this particular philosophy at all? That was one primary question. Now, the reason why you go into spiritual philosophy, or why you go and understand such complex philosophies, is because you are looking for an answer to the innate suffering that human beings go through. The suffering of body, the suffering of mind, the inadequacies of human life need some answers. And those answers are to be found either in philosophy or in the world. We look for happiness, we get joy, we get happiness, and we are satisfied for a time being. And then again, we experience sorrow and sadness or difficult times. So we see that there is a curve which goes up and down. We experience happiness, and then we go through phases in life where we are not happy. Now, if somebody wants to experience joy and bliss, what do we need to do? We need to go towards finding answers within. And to find answers within, we need a philosophical background. There are different philosophies, different methods that we could access. Right now, we are going through a phase where we are trying to understand Vedantic philosophy and how it helps us answer the question of suffering. The suffering that we experience, the disappointments that we experience, the mundaneness that we experience, how do we overcome these inadequacies of human life? So, how do we break out from the cycle of birth, death, decay, old age, impermanence? So, how do we actually outgrow these things for good? So, that's the question. That's the big question. And we are choosing the method to help us answer these queries. We could take up Buddhism to answer the same queries. We could take up Shaivism to answer the same queries. And that's what the discussion is. Right now, the focus is on Vedanta. So, this is where we are. A small recap may be useful. Any thoughts or any question you have on whatever we have discussed, feel free to share right now. And then I step forward with today's discussion.
Sir, can you explain once more that through Maya, how could we reach to Brahman?
Maya, very briefly, pure consciousness is ever existing, ever blissful, all pervasive. Now, if the pure consciousness that we are talking about is limitless and it is everywhere, then why we feel so limited in our life's experiences? Why do we feel so finite when we are supposed to be infinite? So, Maya is another attribute of pure consciousness which has two roles. One, it hides the pure consciousness from us and it creates the ignorance that we all experience. So Maya is a indistinguishable attribute of pure consciousness. The role of Maya is to create that boundary, that divide which keeps us in ignorance of our own potential. So the dependent reality that we experience, where everything is limited, everything is changing, everything is impermanent, is because of that innate quality of Brahman itself, where the projection of Brahma is limited. And we need to move from ignorance to that form of knowledge. And we do that through that process of removing one sheet after the other of our ignorance to move towards pure consciousness. So, the role of Maya is to make sure that there is a dependent reality that exists around us, which in itself feels extremely real. It is a quality of the Brahman itself. It is not something negative or coming from anywhere outside. If pure consciousness is infinite and it is knowledge and it is wisdom, then one of the properties it also has is the Maya that it projects. So Maya has that role. Any other thought?
Thank you,
So
sir.
Maya is the same thing, myth being subjected reality. So is it
Dependent
synonymous?
reality. Maya creates that dependent
Oh,
reality. Yeah.
that's a format.
So
Okay,
Mithya is not unreal or untrue. It's the dependent reality. That's how that Sanskrit word is used. Maya can project that dependent reality.
thank you.
So that's how they are different.
Huh, huh.
Today's topic is on the methods of inquiry. Because we are discussing Maya, there is a method of inquiry called Mithyavta Anushandhan, inquiry into the dependent reality. So, how this world functions, and inquiry into that is also a method of inquiry. So, where you understand the mechanics of this world. Remember how we focused on the three gunas and then we focused on the cause and effect, the impermanence of this world. So there are attributes of this world which makes it transactional, dependent, which is different from the pure consciousness. So that questioning of how this world functions, what are the underlying framework of the jagat that we experience, that is a method of inquiry. Let me list out the 10 methods of inquiry, and then we will expand on a few today. Neti, we have discussed that. Drishya Vivek, we have discussed Panchakosha Vivek. We have discussed Panchakosha and how do we apply that into a method of inquiry. Then there is inquiry into the three states of being: awake, sleep, and deep sleep. Then there is a method of inquiry where you superimpose false statement, believing it to be true, and then you yourself negate it with logic. That's another method of inquiry. This is number 6 that I am discussing, where superimposition and negation happens at the same time. This requires two people. Like, say, you and me are discussing. I state something which is wrong or partially correct. You agree, and then with logic, you counter me. So first you agree, and then you break it down and make my statement false. So this is generally done by a guru and a shishya. So shishya would state something, guru would pretend to agree to it, and then he would dismantle the shishya's statement. So this is another way we proceed. Sakshi bhav, witness consciousness. Then there is who am I. So you meditate on who am I, you keep questioning. Then comes cause and effect, no difference between it, and all is Brahman. You go into iti state, from neti to iti, that what you are not, you have discussed. Then you are saying that there is no difference between me and the Brahman, and hence the cause and the effect both are the same. There is no difference. We explore that, and the result is iti, that everything is Brahman. And then there is this inquiry into the 4 mahavakya, 4 statements where the crux of Vedanta is given in each of the 4. You could meditate on any one of them to realize the whole of what is the philosophy of Vedanta. There is a student who goes to a master asking, I am a very busy person, give me the knowledge of all Upanishads in as briefly as you can, so that I understand it totally, fully, and correctly. And then the Guru gives these 4 statements. If you meditate on these 4 statements, you don't need to read any of the Upanishads. So we will give one whole session on Mahavakya. It needs explanation. So these are the 10 different methods of inquiry. We have discussed 3. Today, if time permits, we will go into the analysis of the 3 states of being as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Before we proceed, we had how to become a seeker. There are 3 ways we go into methods of inquiry. One is called the Shravana, that you listen very intently. In that sense, you go and read and listen to the text that is available to you. Any scripture that you are reading, you need to read objectively, silence your doubts just by reading and rereading it. So, Shravana is the method of listening or reading to the text that is available to us to put an end to the doubt that whether the scriptures are a valid means to knowledge. That should be put to rest by reading, rereading, and making sure that you understand what you are reading. So, this is a very good way to prepare yourself for faith. When we don't read deeply enough and we have not satisfied our desire or our questions or our intellectual reasoning, like my reason should be satisfied and to a certain degree so that I can trust what I am reading. If I just read at a superficial level without arguing, questioning, or doubting what I am reading, then I'm just believing what I am reading. So, Shravana or listening or reading with intent has a purpose that you remove doubt whether the scripture or the knowledge that you are acquiring is valid form of knowledge or not. So that is Shravana. Then comes Manan. Manan is where you meditate upon the fact that you have read, you have understood, and now you are in your mind, in your meditative capacity, you are trying to understand what you have learned. So this is where you are bridging the gap between the logic aspect of it to the application aspect of it. So you're not reading anymore. You have acquired a bit of knowledge and you are meditating and contemplating on that idea. So you may have read about pure consciousness. You have tried to understand what is pure consciousness, and now you are sitting and meditating upon the definition of pure consciousness, what it feels like to be blissful. You are at that stage where you are meditating. Meditation always starts with intellect. Like your mind has to lead you to that meditative state. Finally, is Nididhyasana. That's the state we all want to be in, where you have realized what you are meditating upon, so that it will be the final stage of inquiry of your meditative efforts, is where you have totally gone beyond intellect. You are either experiencing bliss or you are beyond bliss as well. Inquiry is at the intellect level, and when you have gone beyond intellect, that's your Anandamaya Kosha or the blissful state. So you are experiencing all the results of your inquiry. So in a way, what we are saying is Shravana and Manana should lead you to Nidhyasana, and Nidhyasana will, you have crossed the boundary of intellect, you have internalized it so much that you are right at the edge of knowing fully what you are de-identifying yourself with each of the layers, almost at the doorstep of nirvana. The three stages: listening, reading enough so that you are intellectually satisfied, then meditating upon it, and then realizing it. All the methods of inquiry that I have listed, we will go through these three layers. Manana, any questions on this? No.
So,
Let us
Manan,
see. Go ahead.
So, Manan and Nidhyasana are basically meditation. One is where you are still stuck at the intellect. The other is when you have gone beyond it, right? Like first
Correct.
step is listening and reading, and then the next two step is meditation if you were to get an English word, right?
Yes. See, Nidhyasana could happen even when you are not meditating.
Hmm. When you're
Like,
experiencing it through the day, it's there, right? You've crossed that
yes,
stage.
you do not need the postural strictness of meditative effort. Like when you meditate, there is a posture you assume, and you are demarcating that time, that space, as if you are meditating. So you sit, you have taken a posture, you are trying to push your mind towards focus, right? So that is a meditative effort. Nidhyasana is that meditative effort can happen in that meditative posture where you have secluded yourself from the world. It can also be exercised when you are in and amidst the world performing your activities, because you are now experiencing the results of your meditative effort that you carry in the world as well.
Thank you.
So you are not bound by time and space.
Thank you.
Now, methods of inquiry, we come to Panchkoshas. Now, let us go back to where does this term, or where does this idea of Panchakoshas are first mentioned. So the primary source is your Taittiriya Upanishad. And here it is given in three segments. This Panchakosha is introduced to us in three segments. This part we did not discuss earlier. So what are the three parts? So first part is called the Sikchavali, where the ethical discipline is explained so that the student is ready to receive this knowledge of Panchkoshas, so that you have purified your mind, you have stilled your mind enough to receive this teaching. Then it goes into Brahman, where you give a definition of Brahman, and you give the definition of the Panchkoshas, and you also explain that the pure consciousness or the Brahman that we are discussing is beyond the Panchkoshas. So the definition of Brahman that is given here is slightly different from Satchidanand. Here it is, in this context, it is given Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, which means reality, knowledge, and infinitude. So this is what your Brahman or pure consciousness is hidden in a cave, and the cave is described as the intellect. So the pure essence or the Swarup of Brahman is hidden in a cave. The cave is your buddhi, intellect. So and then it goes on to describe the 5 layers that we have talked about of Anandamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, and Anandamaya Kosha. So these are 5 layers of human existence, and how jiva has to go through one layer after the other, from hard matter to lighter nature of spirit, and finally it goes beyond all the 5 koshas to experience this state of awareness. And the third one is called the Bhrigu Vali, where Rishi Bhrigu is asking his father Varun about these. He asks him a particular question: tell me about Brahman, or tell me about reality. Now, instead of giving him a direct answer to what is reality, he gives him things to meditate upon, where he is saying that you meditate upon food, you meditate upon life force, you meditate upon intellect. That's how you will reach the answer. Once you meditate upon food, you will know what is Brahman. Once you meditate upon energy or life force, you will understand Brahman. I'm giving you the building blocks of of what existence looks like. You meditate upon each one of them to find out the answers. So Bhrigu starts meditating upon food, and he realizes that food is Brahman. So he thinks that food is what every human being is made of, and once you die, you again go back to the soils, and soil gives back rise to the food. So what Brahman is if I am made of Brahman and I dissolve back to Brahman, so I should be food as well. So he goes on to think that food is Brahman. And then his father says, no, meditate upon other things and find out what you are. So then, as he meditates, he understands that food in itself has no value if there is no life force supporting it. So he thinks that life force is Brahman. And then he goes back to his father and says that life force is Brahman. So then he says, no, go and meditate further. Then he meditates upon intellect, and then he sees that, all right, this life force can be perceived. I can see that life force is like, I'm high on energy, I'm low on energy, I like things, I dislike things, I have different emotions attached to it. So then he thinks that probably I am the emotions that I'm experiencing. Then he goes back to his father and says, am I the emotion? So he says, no, you go and meditate further. Then he goes, all right, I have the capacity to experience these emotions, and I have the capacity to experience these things through my senses, which produce emotions within me. So I must be higher than the emotions that I am experiencing. So I must be the intellect then, who can think, who can distinguish, who can discriminate. So am I the intellect? He says that intellect is Brahman. So father says, no, no, go and meditate further. Then he's meditating, and then he comes back to a point where he says that, all right, now the fact that I can say I am the intellect, I have to be something more. And then he experiences pure joy and bliss. And then he goes back to his father and says that, am I the bliss that I am experiencing? He says, go and meditate more. And then he finally goes beyond that state and experiences awareness. And then he does not return to his father to ask. So these are the 5 koshas that Bhrigu was led through meditation, where he goes through the food representing the Anannamaya kosha, or the matter, or our physical body, the world of experience is inert, has no value. Then he goes through the layers of prana, where he experiences life force, which supports the world, the power to experience. Like a human body, when dead, cannot experience the world. Only when it is supported by life force, that this whole drama can be experienced. So this life force is the pranamaya kosha. Then comes the involvement that we have, the likes, dislikes, and the emotions that we can experience. Our senses are providing us with information that is generating those emotions within us. So those emotions have another layer, that is your manomaya kosha. Then comes the vijnanamaya kosha, where I have my discretion, I have my samskaras residing. So this is the another layer. And then when we go beyond all the four layers, I have the thinnest wheel which separates me from pure consciousness, but that also is a layer that we need to go beyond. So these are the 5 sheets. I could go through these. So you see how the witness consciousness, the seer and seen method, and neti all can be applied to this particular Panchakoshas. So Panchakosh is essentially, you apply the 3 methods of witness consciousness, the seer and seen method and the neti method, to the Panchakosha to inquire where you are, what you are, who you are. So this is another method of inquiry. Thoughts, questions, remarks, anything, please. Now, in this context, Adi Shankaracharya also has a method that we could apply. So you have the Sakshi Bhav that supports the inquiry into the 5 sheets that we have. Adi Shankaracharya gives a 15-step routine that can lead us to samadhi, and that also takes us through different layers of consciousness, and one sheet at a time we could remove. This is his reinterpretation of Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga. He breaks it down into 15 steps. His point of view is through Advaita Vedanta, where the central theme is of recognizing Brahman in everything. So let me take you through those 15 steps, and then I will map it back to the discussion of inquiry. Adi Shankaracharya gives us these 15 steps of how to build ourselves to inquire, how to reach the state of samadhi where we are experiencing awareness, and how to see all the methods of inquiry through this system of practice. First one is, you will see some of the names in Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga coming back here as well. So, Yam, Niyam, Tyag, Maun, Desh, Kal. These are the first 6. So, Yam Niyam is basically the do's and don'ts so that your mind is not agitated. So be non-violent, because violence creates a deep scar in the mind, which will come back to haunt you even 20 years later. Don't steal, because that will put your mind at unease. Don't accumulate wealth unnecessarily, because that will put your mind at unease. Clean your body, clean your mind, do tapas, read enough, so that you can still your mind. So Yam Niyam in yoga or Patanjali's yoga, what you do and what you don't do should be seen from the prism of what can help you meditate by stilling your mind. While Shankaracharya is saying that You restrain the senses by seeing the entire universe as Brahman. Why are you trying to be violent? Or why are you trying to steal? Or why are you trying to lie? Or why are you trying to accumulate? If everything is Brahman, you don't need any of the wrong things that you want to do. Any kind of excess in senses needs to be avoided because you don't need it, because everything is Brahman. So you don't need to prove a point to anyone, because whom do you prove that point to? So violence, truthfulness, non-stealing, brahmacharya, aparigraha, or non-accumulation, everything, because you yourself are Brahman, what do you have to acquire and what do you have to leave? The continuous flow of thoughts towards truth of the self to the exclusion of other ideas. So you do a kind of tapas where you are training your mind to make sure that you see Brahman in everything and you exclude everything else. So the tapas becomes that you discipline your mind to see Brahman in everything and you do not want to see anything else. You restrain the senses so that you can see Brahma in everything, or the pure consciousness in everything. And Niyam is you train your mind actively to see everything. You create a mindset, a discipline of actions where everything is about pure consciousness. Then comes Tyag, renunciation of the illusory names, name and form. So, what do you renounce? You renounce name and form. Shankaracharya's methods are extreme. What do you renounce? You don't renounce the world, you don't renounce the family, you don't renounce your comfort, but you renounce everything that has a name and form. So, that's how you practice renunciation. Renunciation of the illusory world of names and forms in favor of the eternal reality. So you renunciate, give up one thing at a time. So you are renouncing, but the idea why you renounce is established in Brahman, Mauna, the silence that you want to pursue. That's another step. So you need to silence your mind and your speech so that you can settle your mind. The disturbance that you create by speaking too much needs to be silenced. The restlessness of the thoughts need to stand still, so that that kind of silence can be utilized to pursue pure consciousness. So if you want to move towards pure awareness, you need to silence the speech, silence of speech, that you are not talking too much, and you are silent with a purpose. You are silent because you want to redirect your mind towards pure consciousness. Silence of the body, where you are not moving too much. Physical restlessness needs to be controlled, with the idea that if you are physically still, then you can overcome your senses and sensory perceptions and redirect your mind. Silencing the speech, the body, and the mind, not in a dumb manner where you are just silencing it but not replacing it with anything positive. You are silencing it and redirecting it. So, Maun methods is not just silence, silence and redirection, identifying a place where there is no distinction between seer and the seen. So you identify a space where you will sit and meditate, where you will make that effort to pursue your highest goal. That is space, your physical space. Then you create a space in your mind where part of your consciousness, even when you are doing things of the world, will be towards your highest goal of finding who you are, or questioning who am I. No matter what you are doing, part of your consciousness is always asking the right question of who you are or why you are doing what you are doing, redirecting all your efforts to finding out who you are. Creating a physical space of meditation is important. Creating a space in your mind is important. The ultimate question of who you are. Understanding time as the unbroken bliss of the present moment of awareness. Like you create space for meditation, you need to create time for meditation, but that's the physical time. But time also means present moment. The where your mind is moment by moment. Most precious time to meditate is the here and now. When I am meditating, what am I thinking? What is my state of mind in the current moment as I am experiencing? Am I aware of my thoughts? Am I aware of my mind? Am I aware of myself in the here and now? Why this here and now becomes important? Time as a factor, it impacts human beings very deeply. We either think of the past or think of the future. This creates anxiety and stress in real life. And in spiritual quest, if my mind is going to the past and going to the future, then the current moment is wasted. So becoming aware of your thought in the current moment will help you redirect your thought for the upcoming moment. Becoming aware of your thoughts in the here and now becomes important. The time factor has to converge to here and now and not diverge into past and future. This is the exercise we need to do, which translates into being mindful of your own thoughts in the here and now. In Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, it's mastering the body so that you can still your mind. You prepare your spine so strong that when you sit to meditate, your body is not a hindrance to your mind concentrating, but body becomes the medium through which you can power your spiritual quest. Asana in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, in spite of your posture, you should be able to redirect your mind to pure consciousness. So, no matter how you are positioned vis a vis body, you prepare your mind in a way that you can redirect your mind towards God. Asana is the steady posture of the mind. So, this is quite deep and quite different from what we experience when we practice yoga. We do the yoga postures to prepare the body. Adi Shankaracharya is saying that you prepare your body well and good, but your mind has to always be positioned towards your quest. If anything can steady your mind, that is appreciated. If by preparing your body, you can prepare your mind, then the reason to prepare your body is different. You don't prepare your body just for the sake of the body. You prepare your body so that you can prepare your mind, so that the mind is always focused on your quest. So body should not become a hindrance. But if it comes to that, that body is becoming the hindrance, you have prepared your mind enough so that it can be directed. So towards your quest for pure consciousness. The steady posture of the mind identifying with Brahman is the ultimate posture that you are looking at. So these are the first 7 steps of Adi Shankara's 15-step method. It is almost 9 o'clock. I'll stop here.